Welcome to, or welcome back to, the Agatha May Detective Agency. I'm Agatha May, and in this video, we're continuing the zany adventures of the Not-So-Secret Secret Club. If you've missed the first 4 chapters, you can find them under the playlist titled Brain Trust. The members of this secret group will tell you that they are only looking for the truth, and that they want to see both sides in the matter of Micah's death. However, there's more conversation about Micah's family than there is Micah. I refrained from posting a lot of those conversations because of how absolutely hateful they were. But here are a few comments made about the family by members of the group. Someone referred to them as a POS family. Another commented that the family was dry begging. They've been called grifters, lazy, worthless, and even psychopaths. Someone commented that the mental illness in this family is just sickening. Another said that Micah was just a payday to them. I know some of you are wondering why I'm even talking about this small secret group, and I will explain the main reason for it in the next chapter. But also, these are not nice people. They have been poisoning other groups with lies about the Francis family and lies around other events concerning Micah and John Paul. In this episode, we're going to be looking at an event that had the group positively giddy with excitement. Let's get into Chapter 5, The Group Loses Their Collective Mind. What could possibly be so thrilling for this delightful group of Mensa candidates? Was it a trip to the zoo? No. Girls' night out? Tickets to Monster Jam Nitro Burn 2024? No, it was even better. It was a real live interview with none other than John Paul Miller. What? How did the group even pull that one off? Legitimate journalists even had trouble getting interviews with him. Well, I'll tell you how the group managed it. It was because of one determined little brunette, Buella DeVille. I had a different nickname for her at first, but after a discussion with a couple of friends and learning more about her, I've decided that Buella DeVille is more apt. Plus, she used the word devil as part of a nickname for a member of Micah's family, so I think it's fitting. Buella has been in contact with John Paul for a while now, and it seems they've built up quite a little friendship. She posted to the group asking if they'd be interested in a private interview with John Paul. And of course, the group was just absolutely bonkers nutso crazy about the idea. Someone very special in the group came up with the idea that they should compile a list of questions they wanted to ask John Paul. What a good idea. Wendy, who we haven't met before, had a whole list of questions that included, what is Michael Francis's drug of choice? Well, great question, Wendy, because that has zero to do with Micah's death. I don't care if the answer is cocaine snorted off the backside of a rabid wolverine. Well, actually, that might be kind of interesting, but it would still have nothing to do with Micah's death. Wendy's other question was, what's the deal with Michael Honeycutt? Why is he still involved with the Francis children? For those of you who don't know, Michael Honeycutt was once married to Angelita, Micah's mother. I guess Wendy doesn't realize that sometimes families are made up of a variety of people, and sometimes when your children love someone, they maintain a relationship with them, even if you don't. How cuckoo crazy is that? Weena asked, has he ever been diagnosed with a mental illness? And if so, what meds has he been subscribed? I'm pretty sure she meant prescribed, though. Harmonica asked, what did he say in the emails he sent Micah the day of her death? Buella chimed in and said, I'll add to that by asking if he can share the emails with us. You know, it's almost cute how they think that John Paul was telling the truth about sending Micah emails that day. Or telling the truth about anything, actually. Litany, who never really said much in the group, wanted to know if John Paul was single. Girl, Susie Skinner is gonna come for you. You're gonna be in a baked potato fight, and I'm gonna bet Susie has way more experience with that than you do. Litany also wanted to know John Paul's opinion on what he thought Micah's family needed all the money for. Pastor Dilly said that his questions might make John Paul uncomfortable, but he wanted to know, were you and Micah a lifestyle couple? Did you have permission to do things on your own? Did she, if she came back and told you about it? Was she always a willing participant when you wanted to bring someone home? Well, you're a little freak, ain't you, Brother Dilly? Your questions just made everybody uncomfortable. Why is a pastor asking these kinds of questions? Let me rephrase that. Why is anybody asking these kinds of questions? Why do I feel like I need to have a good scrub down with bleach and a Brillo pad now? Spaghetti, another group member we haven't talked about, was sure that John Paul's attorneys wouldn't let him do this interview. But Buella assured everyone that it was on like Donkey Kong. Are you dying to know if the interview actually happened? It did. After the interview, the gang gathered back in the Facebook basement, and Buella asked them what they thought of the interview. Splina, who's another newcomer to our story, said that John Paul seemed to genuinely like Nate, Micah's brother. Byton pops up to say, I made the comment last week that Nate seemed to be a good guy, the only one out of them all. I think Byton is a really nasty woman. I mean like bitter, mean, nasty. But she had praise for John Paul and said, now that this has come up, I appreciate JP calling out what he saw, but also giving credit and appreciation for who did what right, too. That's where the bar is with John Paul. So low, all he has to do is recognize that someone did something right. And Byton continued with, I think his answers confirmed what I've felt in the past month, that her family was clueless and disinterested in her or her health and really used her. Very sad. And as quirky as JP is, he did more for her than they ever did. I've always believed she committed suicide. I think she was the tough cookie he said she was. I know I just said that I thought Byton was a nasty woman, but let me retract that and say, I think she's a horrendously nasty woman. Also, quirky is typically not an adjective used to describe a narcissist. Maybe Byton is just blinded by love. And Byton still couldn't shut her pie hole and continued with, one other thing, on the topic of money, he said, we always gave them money, meaning Micah's family, whatever they needed or something close to that. It impressed me that he spoke of he and Micah as a team, even in that. And as much as he knew how lazy and self-absorbed they are, it was her family and he still helped them out. I do think they really loved one another too. Byton, not only do I think you're a horrendously nasty woman, I also think you're super dumb. Buella DeVille piped up and said, OMG, yes. I can't wait to share the photos and videos of them together on vacations and dates. That was impressive. I'm happy you caught that, because I know he's in love with her. It shows. But if you asked me to verbalize how I know that, I'd be grasping other than saying it's my opinion. Well, I think your opinion sucks, Buella. Buella also says, I was sending him all the fan mail from my TikTok page and he told me to stop. He had no interest, which I found fascinating. But now, after 10 weeks of communicating, I know. Back when he said that, I was scratching my head like, is he not really like everything I've heard so far? Buella. He didn't want the fan mail because he doesn't give a rat's butt hair about the people sending it. He has no use for them because they can't do anything for him. He was nice to you because you could do something for him. You're 53 years old. You can't really be this naive, can you? Harmonica thought the interview was very interesting and said his responses answered a lot of her questions. Well, bless her heart. Byton came back again with, I will have to say I enjoyed seeing his childlike generosity. And his crazy broken glasses. He's deaf, ADHD. You know how you hear about women who write serial killers in prison and end up falling in love with them and then marrying them? And then being the wife of a serial killer becomes their entire personality? That's who Byton reminds me of. Then Buella was back with, when I started my TikTok to post about it, I was ready to throw him in jail and throw away the keys. I had to check myself for that. Yeah, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself, girl. And of course, Byton had to come back again because she just can't stop her trap from clapping, and said, I really appreciate him trusting us and being willing to talk. Thank you so much for making this happen. I was mesmerized. Oh, Byton, you're embarrassing. So the gang was so enthralled with John Paul in the interview that they're sure he's just the bee's knees. He's simply a goofy, neurodivergent little wacky snacky. So how close were John Paul Miller and Buella DeVille? Well, the original interview was set for a week before, and Buella had to reschedule. When Spaghetti mentioned that John Paul's attorneys probably wouldn't let John Paul attend the interview, Buella responded with, He actually blew up my phone for the meeting today because he doesn't have social media and didn't see in his email that I'd changed the date. He kept texting that he drove home for the meeting and called, sent text 15 minutes into when it should have started. It's a fair bet he will be in attendance next Saturday. Buella also knew the terms of the settlement between the Francis family and John Paul before court had even happened. Sorry, she hypothetically knew. She posted this to the group. Hi everyone, just an update and a heads up. Hypothetically, if an agreement were to be hypothetically reached today, and hypothetically everything gets thrown out of court, and again, hypothetically you see a big press release in a couple of hours, Saturday is still on. And then said, yes, they are getting paid out to go away. So either Buella is the world's most accurate psychic, or John Paul was telling her these things. And when someone in the group mentioned that the settlement meant that Micah's family would never have to face consequences for their part in Micah's death, Buella said, oh, but they will. They have to live with themselves, and I have a signed agreement of ownership over all materials prior to the agreement. I can release any and all as I see fit. Isn't Buella just so powerful? I'll bet her shoulder pads were bigger than all the other girls back in the 80s. Also, Buella, I would caution you to be careful about what you release. Some of that material that John Paul sent you might not be the truth. She also had this to say about the settlement. The agreement was entered into so he can finally begin the mourning process and be done with those people forever. I can speculate their reason, but I'm sure you already know the motivation. It seems like Buella believes John Paul when he said that he hasn't even been able to grieve Micah's death because of everything that was going on. I guess maybe Buella really is that naive. She also told the group this about the settlement. I mean, they get money and have to shut the fluff up. I'd say it's a good thing on the second part. Now maybe they will stop begging from the public since they got 6 figures, but I am doubtful. She also said that John Paul paid the Francis family's attorney's fees. Well, it looks like John Paul tells Buella a lot. I wonder if they've bought best friend heart necklaces yet. It also seems like Buella is trying to give Byton a run for her money in the mean and nasty department. So why did John Paul decide that Buella was the one to confide in, the one to support him, the one to win over? We'll find out in Chapter 6. We'll also discover just how naive Buella and the rest of the gang actually are. It's going to be a long chapter, so it might take me a few days to get it finished. Please be patient. I promise it will be worth the wait. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, stay safe and be happy.